Ralph Breaks the Internet has 3 of the same 4 writers as the first Wreck-It Ralph. There's Wreck-It Ralph was directed by Rich Moore, and it was written by Phil Johnston, Rich Moore, Jim Reardon, and Jennifer Lee. And then the sequel is directed by Phil Johnston and Rich Moore, and it was written by Phil Johnston, Rich Moore, Jim Reardon, Pamela Ribon, and Josie Trinidad. And the reason, and mentioning which of the same writers and directors that Ralph Breaks the Internet has is important because, I mean, a lot of people a lot of people have certain complaints about Ralph Breaks the Internet, where they believe Vanellope went terrible because she wants to join the slaughter race, but the film treats this on issue, and they think Wreck-It Ralph's different character too, and I need to know how you feel about this because it doesn't seem right that it doesn't seem right that Ralph Breaks the Internet, because why would Ralph Breaks the Internet have why would Wreck-It Ralph and Ralph Breaks the Internet have 3 of the same writers and one of the same 2 directors, which both of Ralph Breaks the Internet directors also wrote the first movie, but this time there's 2 directors instead of 1 like in the first film. Why would the same writers write a sequel where I understand having different writers or different directors writing a sequel where they don't understand the characters from the earlier films, but why would the same writers and same directors dare to make a sequel where they look like they don't understand the characters and the lore of their first movie?
Well, you liked the movie just fine before you started reading about people complaining about it. It didn't bother you then. I mean, 3 of the writers are the same. Either the 4th writer had a big pull, or they took the view that time has passed, the characters have changed and grown a little bit, and they're not exactly the same as they were, and that happens in real life. And the storyline was about someone growing and wanting to, moving away basically, right? Which happens in real life. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right.
I mean, otherwise, if everything exactly the same, people would say, oh, it's just a rehash of the first movie, right?
Right.
They want to do something different. Right? In real life, people grow up and change a little, I mean, I guess video game characters aren't supposed to change, but they're making these characters more like, I guess, realistic, like in real life. People grow, change, decide they want something different, right? They want more than what they're doing now, right?
Yeah.
They want to go on to the next stage of their life, whatever. I mean, that part makes sense to me.
Okay. Well, here's the problem, Well, I actually disagree with people who think that Wreck-It Ralph is a completely different character in Ralph Breaks the Internet because, sure that they do make some valid complaints about Wreck-It Ralph being more whiny and immature in the second film, but besides that, and more insecure.
He's not the one who grew up.
Yeah, but besides that, if I remember correctly, both Wreck-It Ralph movies have in both Wreck-It Ralph movies, the central conflict is caused by Wreck-It Ralph wanting wanting validation, Wreck-It Ralph wanting someone to like him, and then he learns that it's okay to not have everybody like him as long as one person still likes him.
Yeah, and then in the second movie, that one person wanted to move away.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, that's why it's good to have more than one friend, and not to base your sense of validation on one person.
Do you think Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-it Felix are friends or foes? At the end of the first film and in the second film, they seem to, they act pretty friendly with each other when outside of the game.
They're like actors who understand. They're like actors who understand that they're foes on screen, but aren't necessarily foes off screen, I guess.
Yes, and
we're familiar with that from actors.
Do you think how much of a villain do you think Wreck-It Ralph acts in? Do you think Wreck-It Ralph ever actually acts like a villain in the first Wreck-It Ralph movie?
Yeah, he smashes everything up. Yeah, but he's someone who's been cast as a villain who doesn't really want to be a villain, right? That was the whole thing in the first movie.
Yeah.
Right?
And what Phil Johnston, Rich Moore, and Jim Reardon thought when they wrote the sequel was they really wanted to test the challenge of like the Wreck-It Ralph's last line in the first movie when he says, "If that little girl likes me, how bad can I be?" So in Ralph Breaks,
Oh, we found how bad he can be.
so even though Ralph Breaks even though Ralph Breaks the Internet was definitely a risky sequel to make, especially off the heels of the Emoji Movie, I still it didn't, and the risk didn't pay off for the whole audience.
Yeah.
I still agree with Brown Table that Ralph Breaks the Internet is a much more progressive sequel than Incredibles 2 because well, something I actually
Well, that's
found,
a low bar.
Yeah.
Incredibles 2 was like a rehash.
I know. Something I really found. So something I very found about. Well, something I found very interesting about Ralph Breaks the Internet when I really think about it is that even though it also rehashes some of the same conflicts from the first Wreck-It Ralph, it doesn't rehash as much as The Incredibles 2 did, and I guess Ralph Breaks the Internet was actually not such a bad test of character for Vanellope and Wreck-It Ralph because I think the Wreck-It Ralph writers who came back to write the sequel actually wanted to tap more into Wreck-It Ralph's villainous side if they were thinking that, maybe Wreck-It Ralph wasn't actually villainous enough. Maybe we didn't really paint Wreck-It Ralph as villainous enough in the first film.
Yes, he really did have a villainous side. They wanted to show us. Yes. Plus he's being so big and strong.
And that's why Ralph Breaks the Internet might actually
Dark side in him.
be better than you remember.
Yeah, he did have that dark side they brought out. Yeah. All right, what else?
Well, do you think Wreck-It Ralph actually learned the wrong lesson by allowing Vanellope to move on to a different game when that lesson runs the risk of breaking the rules of not trying to be a player in a different game?
That was doing it for a bad reason. She's doing it for a good reason. I mean,
Are you sure about that? How many people do you think want to play Sugar Rush if Vanellope's not there?
Oh.
And they can pick any reason it's not Vanellope, but Vanellope is their most favorite character before.
yeah, well, there are people who are like the favorite barber or hairstylist or ad executive, and they want a better job and a better life, and they move on to another company, and the customers can either decide to stay with the original company or to follow their favorite to their new company, right?
Yeah, I think
This kind of thing happens in real life, people, there's like working for a certain company or being a certain video game is not like a marriage. You haven't committed to it for life. You're not supposed, I guess in a video game you're supposed to be committed for life, but it's not a marriage. It's like a job. You're not committed for life, right?
Right.
So it's just like a job in the real world. You should be able to move to a different job that suits you better when you're growing and developing and you need something different.
Right.
You need more of a challenge, right? You're
Right.
ready for a bigger challenge,
Yes.
whether it's in a video game or a job, right?
Right.
Players of video games, they play more than one video game, do they not?
Of course.
So, there are people that grow up and decide that they want something grittier than Sugar Rush, right?
Right.
All the time.
I think Watso. I forgot the channel this on, but I think it was Watso Videos. I think he made a good video with an interesting argument for like why, Vanellope didn't go turbo and why it's actually okay for why it might actually be okay for Vanellope to try being a different kind of racer in a different kind of racing game.
Yeah, she wasn't going turbo to destroy this other video game. She was going turbo like she wanted a newer, more challenging job.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Well, it's still really nice that Wreck-It Ralph, since Wreck-It Ralph wanted to be that, since Wreck-It Ralph since Wreck-It Ralph was Valley's friends, he didn't want to be judgmental of her by accusing her of going turbo. He was worried about losing her in a game that's probably not for her.
He worried about it might not be for her. It wasn't for him. But, also in real life, the rules we were taught that when we were children aren't necessarily the same rules or aren't as useful when we're grown-ups, right? Like, do it because I said so. It's something your parents say, right?
Right.
But then when you grow up, you got to do something for the right reason, not just because your parents said so, right?
Right.
Like, your parents can't tell you who to marry or not to marry, right? They can advise you, like, I think this person's a gold digger, or I think this person was abusive. Like, they have reasons that you shouldn't marry someone. He's not good enough for you. She's not good enough, But they can't, like, literally make you anymore, at least, okay, in some cultures they can make you. But, I think a grown adult, people should be married off with their children.
Yeah.
And a grown adult shouldn't be forced to marry someone they don't want to marry. Okay? That when you're a grown up, you do things for the right reason, not because your parents said so, right?
Well, I think
I
that's...
mean, they also have a rule about not staying up past a certain hour when you're
Right.
little. When you're growing up, you can stay up late, right? As long as you, are responsible and you don't, miss getting to work on time,
Right.
etc.
Well, I think that's why Turning Red was about Ming wanting to marry someone her mom didn't want to marry, and May also wanting to go to a boy band concert, and for music her mom didn't want her to listen to.
They both want to do things
Dance
their
too.
moms didn't approve of, yeah, right.
Right.
And part of being an adult is challenging those boundaries, those rules, right?
Right.
When you grow up, that they don't necessarily fit you anymore. That you should be able to make some of your own decisions, and your parents make fewer and fewer of your decisions as you grow up, right?
Right.
So, sorry, was that a tangent?
I guess it was. Honestly, I guess it is kind of interesting how the message of Turning Red could also somehow factor into Ralph Breaks the Internet when Wreck-It Ralph needed to let Vanellope go and follow her own dreams.
Yeah, it's like at the end of high school, people go off to different colleges. Some people don't go to college, some people go to college nearby, and some people go to college far away, and you may keep in touch, but you don't see them every day like you used to.
Right. Do you think it was a mistake do you think, back on the topic of Ralph Breaks the Internet, do you think it was a mistake for Ralph Breaks the Internet to have a message about Wreck-It Ralph learning to not be insecure and let his friend follow her own dreams, even though that runs the risk of breaking the rules of the rules against game jumping in the first Wreck-It Ralph?
No, because that obviously it wasn't a going turbo situation. Okay, it was a growing up, growing apart, going and wanting to do something different kind of situation. Growing up and moving away kind of situation. Getting a new job, going to a different school, going to college far away, what have you. I guess it's more like, graduating from high school and going to college someplace else. Even though, you could also look at it as taking a different job because being a veteran is kind of like a job. But it's also like growing up and just going to a college one person goes to college far away, the other one, stays in the local area, right?
Right. Okay, but that sounds good to me, but I still think Wreck-It Ralph 3 I still think that before Wreck-It Ralph 3, if it gets made, before Wreck-It Ralph 3, I still definitely think Vanellope should still move back to Sugar Rush by the next sequel, or else Slaughter Race will get in trouble for, copyright infringement, stealing one of Sugar Rush's characters, if you know what I mean.
Well, maybe she could go back to Sugar Rush and be the queen. Right?
Right.
Wasn't the king exposed?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so she could go back, but in a higher capacity as the queen.
Sounds good to me.
So
speaking of the other
she
Sugar Rush
could
kids,
introduce some higher, more challenging levels that was babyish.
oh, that sounds good to me. I mean,
Keep
Slaughter's
people on
probably
the field
taught.
longer.
Yeah, Slaughter's probably taught her well.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what she did. If that's what she does with Sugar Rush.
She should go spin off of Sugar Rush. That's a little more grown up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And speaking of the kids from Sugar Rush, I think when Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope were gone in the air for 24 hours and they needed to make money on BuzzTube to buy a new steering wheel, I think there actually is a good way that Fix-it Felix could have saved his video game from facing the same problems it did when Wreck-It Ralph was absent in the first Wreck-It Ralph in Sugar Rush. I think Fix-it Felix could easily. I think Fix-it Felix and Sergeant Calhoun tamed the Sugar Rush kids by having them do Wreck-It Ralph's job in his absence. Because that's also what they did with the Q*bert characters in the bonus levels at the end of the first Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay, yeah, they could do that. Sure.
So, whereas the first Wreck-It Ralph movie ended with the way that Wreck-It Ralph and Fix-it Felix created new challenging levels for their video game by by giving a new home and a job to the other video game characters who lost their home. I'm very proud of you. You're very smart for because you thought of a very smart way that Vanellope could do the same by creating new challenges and levels for Sugar Rush that were inspired by your time away in Slaughter Race.
Okay. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. I hope I don't get a lot of dislikes and negative comments for trying to defend Ralph Breaks the Internet. And if you're interested in more content from Adamphibia, then click on the thumbs up button below this video and subscribe to my channel.
Like and subscribe.
And you also shouldn't forget to watch some older videos that I made 1 or 2 years ago.
Okay. Like and subscribe.
And that, my friends, is why, and gang, and that, my gang of YouTube subscribers, is why Ralph Breaks the Internet is a much better film than the Emoji Movie ever was, and why it might seem just as lazy on the surface, but it's not. Ralph Breaks the Internet is much better film than the Emoji Movie and The Incredibles 2.
Okay. Well, I won't argue with that.
You know, Ralph Breaks the Internet is a really strange anomaly for me because somehow it found a way to, it's so many different ways one can slice this film that it's the only movie I know of that has an animated atrocities video from Mr. Enter and a film perfection video from Filmento.
Oh wow, well they disagreed. Okay.
It's like how can Ralph Breaks the, it's amazing how one film can be on both different, can land on both sides of the spectrum for 2 different channels who each have their own series of negative reviews and positive reviews.
Critics disagree. Audience members and fans disagree too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Enter had a review of Turning Red where he said Turning Red is a mixed bag, and he might still think that now, but I still think Mr. Enter could definitely use a better review of Turning Red where he doesn't complain about it not touching on 9/11.
Okay.
Well,
set in Canada.
Yeah. Well, that's all for today. If you like this video about Ralph Breaks, if you liked our video about Ralph Breaks the Internet and our previous video about how good or bad of a film Turning Red is for Pixar, then smash that like button and that subscribe button, and watch earlier videos by Adamphibia.
Like and subscribe. I'm doing my part.
And remember, your best friends are the ones who are the people who know you offline, not all the followers you have online.